of course, getting off this planet and becoming a multi-planet species. That way, in case some catalytic event like nuclear war, climate change, atropine in the water, turning all the frogs gay, whatever, something happens and this planet becomes unlivable or hostile to life, or at least to us as life. That's the end of our planet. That's the end of our species right there. Game over. Unless we, have a colony that can self-sustain indefinitely on another planet. Uh, you know, so obviously, we're not anywhere near being able to talk about the realm of other stars like Alpha Centauri or whatnot. But our technology is good enough that we can go to Mars. Like right now, we can do that. We can go to Mars. We can send a man on Mars, and we can send a bunch of spare ships there and start living quarters and colonize that. We can do that. That's within the scope of our technology right now. And in fact, that's exactly one of the main reasons why Elon Musk invented SpaceX. Came up with it was just for that reason. And, that's a pretty big one to him right there. He's saying that, I guess their plans are, as of right now, in the next 10 years, they would like to start, sending people to Mars to live there, either for short term, long term, whatever we can do. And, at first, it sounds like a pretty good idea. But as with most things, it gets much more complicated the more serious you get about it. And realistically speaking, us going to Mars right now and surviving there and having it be anything more than just a death sentence, an execution, it's just not possible right now. Like it's not possible. Well, maybe, maybe with the help of gravity. This one of these problems. One of the main reasons why we can't do this is because of gravity. Which is why I'm doing this episode on this. This totally relates to gravity, and the solution, as it turns out, probably going to be gravity. But let's dig in. Let's dig deep. Let's go down this rabbit hole, kiddies. Let's see where it leads us. So, yeah, Mars, really hostile terrain, doesn't have any oxygen, doesn't have any light, doesn't have any vegetation, doesn't have any water, full of contaminants and poisonous substances, just riddled throughout all the Martian, not even soil, that's Martian dirt. Just dirt is all it is. Sand and dirt. No nutritional value for plants to live off at all. Definitely not soil. So there's a lot of problems here. The first problem is obviously if we go there, we'd have to be completely, cut off from the environment because it's hostile. We can't breathe the air, so we got to create our own environment where we can breathe and grow our food and live out our lives and really never go outside. It almost be comparable to living like in Antarctica, where it's like you really would never go outside unless you had something to do. And if you did, you'd get bundled up in a bunch of gear and equipment and it'd be a real big deal. And every time you step outside, you could die. It's it is what it is. But don't worry, I have a solution. Not for Mars. No, Mars is screwed. I'm sorry. We'll never be able to colonize Mars. Maybe not never, but not until we get to the age of space travel being routine and commonplace. Only then will we be able to move enough goods like food, mainly water, medicine, whatever, everything. To support a colony on Mars. That'd be the only way because you're not going to terraform that. There's no way. It's just not going to happen. And look at this. I mean, it's just all one giant desert, It's just all brown. Would you really want to live there? They know that, like, if you live in the desert, you suffer from, depression. The human mind needs to see the color green from vegetation because it's so embedded into our DNA or genetics that we're tree-faring creatures that live off fruit. And without that around us, we just spiral out into depression. It is what it is. So there's two really huge problems with Mars. Everything else we could take with our current technology, like what we need right now. The first main problem is water. As you can see, there is no water on Mars. As you can see, there's just none. I think maybe at certain times of the year there could be ice poles, like ice that builds up in the poles of Mars. Like there looks like a little bit right there. If you look, just a little bit right there. But, you know, as they discovered from satellite telemetry, it's not really ice. It's more just like slushy mud that's frozen, that's reflecting sunlight like water or like ice. But it's not snow. It's not like we have in our Earth, you know, our polar ice caps where we can go and grab the snow and melt it in a pot with heat and get water, you know, out of that. It's mainly salty, slushy, watery brine that's been mixed with the dirt and turned to mud. It turns into a cold crystalline thing when it gets cold. So that's not water. You can't live off that. Yeah, there we go. That's a little better. You can't live off that. So there absolutely has to be something else. We'd have to take all of our own water there. And water is one of the most heaviest things we have. And space travel is so expensive already from all the fuel we have to take up there. So with our current technology, we just cannot give enough water to support any colony. It would be like literally like every month you would have to send another ship there full of nothing but water to support this colony. And that's just so expensive. And if one of those shipments fails, you know, blows up on the launch pad or whatever, well, then your whole colony pretty much just died. So that's a huge, huge problem. And you need water for everything. With water, we can obviously drink it and not die of thirst. We can cook with it. We can clean with it. We can have like plumbing, so we have toilets, get rid of our waste. We can grow food, you know, like crops. We can make oxygen, which we need to breathe. We can make hydrogen and oxygen, which we need to make rocket fuel to do everything. We need water for everything. So I'm trying to say we need a lot of it. We need a lot of water, and we need it for everything. And there just ain't none to be found on Mars. And no matter how hard they search, and no matter how many times they prop up those BS headlines of "we think we discovered an whole lake or water in Mars," they never do. It always turns out to be complete BS. They've never found any water on Mars. There isn't there, and there never will be. It's all tried up a long time ago. So that's a pretty huge problem. The second problem, kiddies, is the trip. The trip will take 7 months to get there. I don't know if that includes de-speeding and, you know, getting in orbit and landing or not, but probably take even longer to land because you got to slow down before you can land. So, I mean, 7 months there, and you're looking, if you got to come back, 7 months back, that's 14 months. That's well over a year. Well over a year just going there and coming back. So just going there and orbiting for a couple of days and coming back is going to be like well over a year. This is a problem because, you know, the longest I think our astronauts have been able to be on the space station without having serious issues with space sickness is about a year. I think we got a couple astronauts that have done like, I don't know, a year and a half or 2 years up in the space station. And, you know, it messed them up really bad. that pretty much was the end of their career for anything. Now they have a lot of health problems from being up in space for that long, and they probably are not going to live long, healthy lives. They're probably going to die a little bit on the early side if they're lucky, even with their remarkable health care they're going to get. So we got two huge problems with Mars. One, we need water for everything, and there's ain't none there, and we just don't have the ability to take it there as much as we need. Number two is the trip there. It's just so long. You're going to get space sickness. Just going there and back is pretty much pushing the limits of what we can do in space with our bodies, and living there for any period of time, like pretty much every week, every month that you live there is just pretty much 1 month closer to death. And I guess that our current technology, if we really wanted to push it to just straight up death, it would probably be about, I'm guessing, 2.5, maybe 3 years in space before you just straight up die, before your body just gives out. I don't think anyone has an exact number they can give you, but I'm telling you right now, it's probably going to be close to about 2.5, maybe 3 years. You'll be blind by that point. Your body will be so atrophy. Your heart will probably just give out and stop pumping. You'll have so much calcium loss that your bones will be brittle and frail and just break whenever any stress is applied upon them. It's a nasty, nasty way to go, space sickness. And so pretty much, I mean, the most you could ever hope to live on Mars would be like what? Maybe a year, maybe 2, because there is some gravity there. It's not like you're being in space. The gravity, I want to say, is about half of what ours is here in Earth. Let me see if I can find an exact number. Surface gravity. Yeah, ours is 9.8. Theirs is 3.7. All right, 3.7. So yeah, I mean, you could probably live in that for maybe even a few years if you're lucky, if you work out and you have a good regimen and you have a little technology helping you out with what we do right now, like in the space station. Maybe if you're lucky, you might be able to spend a year getting to Mars and back, and maybe 3 years living on the surface, so maybe 4 years all in all if you're lucky before you die or absolutely have to come back or risk death. Definitely not going to live there. It would be a very not short stay, but you would not be able to stay there indefinitely. So what do we do about this? Well, first we need to quit talking about Mars like we're going to go there and live there. It's just not going to happen. It's just not in the it's just not in the stars, man. You're not going to go and live there with our current technology. This just shows you how they looked and looked and looked, and they believe there used to be water on Mars a long time ago, but right now there is none. They can't find any. It's all gone. There's none. Just none. And they want there to be water there, so they have these all hypotheses like, oh, there used to be an ocean, in Mars. Maybe that means there is still an ocean now, and it's like, no, there's no ocean. There probably never was one, and it's all gone now. So, what do we do? Well, here's what we got to do, and this is a tough one. We're gonna have to go down one planet further down the line, from Mars to Jupiter, and we're not gonna live on Jupiter. No, we can't do that. That's impossible. But on Jupiter, there is a moon that orbits Jupiter, the largest moon, and it's called Ganymede. And wouldn't you know it? Wouldn't you know it? Ganymede, the land of plenty. It is the same size as Mars. Like it's identical, the same size as Mars. It does have a little bit less gravity because I think it's an icy moon. It doesn't have a whole lot of hard rock and iron molten core, I don't believe, like Mars does. So, yeah, the gravity is a little bit less than Mars, and that's going to suck. But I'm getting to a solution with that. If you just stay with me, don't worry, we're working on this. We're going to work on it. We're going all the way through this rabbit hole, baby, all the way to the end. So, we are trading up two things coming from Mars, right? The surface gravity is going to be less than Mars, about half of that of Mars, but it is still one of the largest celestial objects in the entire solar system. You know, excluding the Jovian planets, there's really not but a handful of planets larger than Ganymede. You know, Earth and Venus, and that's about it. So, it's definitely a hotspot that we're definitely going to be colonizing sometime in the future. Whether that be 100 years from now or 1,000 years from now, we're definitely going to be colonizing Ganymede. Maybe 10 years from now, if you guys listen to me. If Elon Musk, you're watching this and you do what I tell you to, maybe it'll work out. We'll see. But one of the benefits of Ganymede is it is all made of ice, baby. That's right. This whole planet, the surface, is all ice, which turns into water when you heat it. Like, we emit heat just being alive. So we got the heat part covered, which means we now got water to drink, to wash, to grow food, to make oxygen, to make fuel. To do everything, to cook, the cleaning, everything. We got it all. We got it all, baby. We got it all. We now, the only thing we have to do is to take enough food for emergencies, take a bunch of seeds, and grow our own food and be self-sustaining, there's a lot of colonies that do that here in America, a lot of communes, whatever, self-sustaining. They know how to do this. They can make this happen. And then we can stay on Ganymede for as long as the gravity will allow us before we get space sickness. Now, with Mars, like I said, it is possible we could go there and stay there a year or two with the current level of space sickness and our technology. With Ganymede, our technology currently is not good enough because it's going to take about 600 days just to get there. So that's like, almost 2 full years. And they say even longer if you're going to slow down and, actually land. They say 200 days. That seems like a bit extreme to me. I'm pretty sure we can decelerate a lot quicker than that. But, 600 days, let's say 700 days. It's going to be at least 2 years to get to Mars, right? So we're already pretty much past our limit of what we can safely do in space, just getting to Mars, or not Mars, like Ganymede. And then landing there and living there, we're already, we're in a lot of trouble. The gravity is going to be less than Mars. And then that 2-year journey back, you're going to die, man. We don't have the science to save you. You're going to die. Which is why all they talk about right now is Mars, because with our current technology, that's the best we can do. It's a year on Mars. That's it. Ganymede is just too far away with our current technology dealing with space sickness. Space adaptive syndrome or space sickness, kind of a motion sickness that can occur when one's surroundings visually appear. Okay, this is definitely not what I was thinking of when I looked up space sickness. I was trying to look up the actual, the space sickness where it destroys your body and you bleed out calcium. I know that was one of the things that all the astronauts say is that as soon as you hit orbit, when they do their urine test, they see they're immediately, as soon as they get out of the Earth's gravity field, they are immediately shedding calcium out of their bones, bone density, into their blood system, out into their urine. That's one of the huge problems with, space sickness is the shedding of calcium. Also, the way your eyes work, you go blind, and there's a lot of other problems. There's just there are so many problems that are associated with it. But there is a solution, all right? So, 2 solutions. Number 1 solution would be gravity. I'm working on it, a gravity gun. I've got my plans laid out. I'm going to start testing them here in the near future and see if I see anything that shows me any sort of positive results. I don't know if my equipment is good enough right now for this, but I'm going to do the best I can. So if we can do artificial gravity, that will help out a lot. Maybe in terms of yeah, like these modules that, rotate. I mean, that would be good. Centrifugal force, which, according to Einstein's theory of special relativity, is equivalent to gravity. And as far as we can tell, that is, in fact, the case. But that's not going to do us much good unless we want to build an entire complex that rotates like this, which would be so hard to do with only having all the materials you have from bringing them from spaceships, like, SpaceX stuff. But there is another way I propose that has not been tested yet at all, to my knowledge. Back in, I think it was 1995, scientists in Amsterdam, I think it was, they created this very, very powerful magnetic field, right? And what they found was that in this magnetic field, they can make anything levitate, anything float. They can make, plants, objects, life forms like frogs, everything, mice, you name it, anything they can make float. Some things float better than others, but everything pretty much floats in a strong enough magnetic field. And the reason why is because water is embedded into everything, especially living tissue, and water is a bipolar molecule, and magnetic fields affect bipolar molecules. So this is 1997. My bad, I was off by 2 years. I'm going by memory here. But yeah, I mean, here's a picture, man. They're making this frog just float like anti-gravity style in the middle of nothing, just on a magnetic field. So, according to my theory of gravity, which if you have not yet read, read in the description my link to my paper for, everything. And once you read that, it's only 5 pages long, take you probably 10 minutes. Then you will know more than 99.99% of people about gravity on this planet. I promise you that much. I promise you that much. Even if I'm wrong, you will still know more about gravity. I promise you. And I don't think I'm wrong. So, yeah. So according to my theory of gravity, a magnetic field or electric field and gravitational field are very closely related. They're like brother and sister forces, all right? So it's not reaching out too far to say that if you can get one to affect you like the other, like a strong enough magnetic field that is so strong that it will levitate you and affect you like gravity does, that you will also be able to get the same benefits of a gravitational field because they're both using the same carrier particle, a virtual photon. Now, of course, the magnetic field has curl, and electric field does not, nor does the gravitational field. So it might not be exactly the same, but we need to test this out. This is our best bet if we want to go to space right now. We have to test this out. We have to make a very strong magnetic field, okay? And just expose it to your body as much as possible, maybe like 10 hours a day is what I would say, right? And here's their video. Here's the, man, the 90s. Woo! I wish I could go back to the 90s. I love the 90s. I miss the 90s. But, yeah, I mean, you can see, they're going to make this frog float. So what I postulate is that if we have a strong enough magnetic field to make a frog float, then we have a strong enough magnetic field. That same magnetic field is going to also simulate the effects of gravity on the body, like preventing space sickness. So what I'm basically saying is that, and this could be us. This could be us floating in this magnetic chamber if it was big enough. Look at that. There is a what is that? A grasshopper, a locust, probably a locust. Man, he's just look at him go. He's so happy. That looks like Ellis Amsterdam. Could be some cannabis for all we know. Who knows? Some plant material.
Also meant by this magnetic levitation to fly in the air. So
Yep.
technically, we
Yeah.
can do it with you without any problem.
There you go. You heard him. He said, I can make you fly too, baby. If you give me a large enough magnet, we can do it. So what I'm saying we do is we take from Amazon, right? Pro Magnetic Mattress Pad, okay? See how it's got these magnets built into it? I say we get some super strong magnets, electromagnets, going to have to be electromagnets, and make a bed of them. And of course, you got to have your comforting on top of the magnets so you don't, you can go to sleep comfortably. But basically, your bed is going to be a giant magnet. And whenever you go to sleep every night, 8-10 hours a night, hopefully you're getting a good sleep. While you're asleep, you're going to be in a very strong magnetic field that is going to be oriented not to levitate you, but to pull on you and to simulate the force of gravity. All right. So, the strongest type of electromagnetic field I think we can get right now is like a Hallback array. It's a specific alignment of electromagnets or even permanent magnets that basically makes it so it orients it so the magnetic field all goes one direction. And it doesn't go off to the sides a whole lot. It doesn't go the back side a whole lot. It all strong side, weak side. Yeah, it all kind of focuses out to one direction. So we got a bed of all Hallback arrays lined up, all electromagnets, and we're just very strong, the strongest electromagnets we can get, and it should be strong. If we get the strongest electromagnets we can get, it should be strong enough to at least have a noticeable and measurable effect on countering space sickness, if my theory on this is correct. The problem is our current magnet technology, the strongest magnets are huge. They're like the size of entire rooms, if not houses, and they require an absolute gigawatts of electricity, which there's no way we could generate on a spaceship that much, electricity. So we're going to have to increase our magnetic technology a little bit to do this. But I think this is the future. Until I succeed in making a gravity gun, this is our best bet of actually going to space long term and starting up colonies and other settlements on other planets like Ganymede or Mars if you can deal with the water. You got to have a very strong magnetic field. And doing that, I think that's honestly going to help curb the space sickness. I think with a strong magnetic field and being in the gravity that's maybe half or a third the strength of the Earth, I think you can make up for it enough, and of course exercising all the things we do in space to fight off the space sickness. I think we could probably, live there maybe if we're lucky 5 or 10 years before you got to come back. That's a pretty good long stay. Maybe indefinitely if we can get the magnetic technology strong enough, quick enough, where it doesn't devour gigawatts of electricity to make it happen. But I think that's what we can do. We can do this. This is within our means of technology right now. We just have to start working on it, spend a lot of money on it, and we can do this. The other thing that, I don't, like I said, I don't know everything about space sickness. NASA doesn't tell us everything. But the astronauts do say that the second they leave Earth, they start shedding calcium, which means, okay, as soon as you get out of the magnet or the Earth's gravitational field, you are suffering. And another possibility of this could be, I want to say, pressure differences. Like maybe the calcium, the pressure of gravity and keeping everything within one atmospheric pressure is what's helping keep all the calcium and everything in place. Like if you go down below and your body gets used to that pressure, when you come back up, you get decompression sickness, or nitrogen, gets embedded into your tissue, and then it comes out very rapidly in large bubbles, and it destroys your tissues. It does so. For all I don't know, I'm just saying this right here. Maybe space sickness also deals with pressure, in which case we would just have to pressurize, the capsules and everything. But I don't think that's the case. I think if that was the case, NASA would have figured that a long time ago. They'd be able to combat that a lot easier than what we have now. I think it truly comes down to gravity, which means our two only ways that we're going to fight this off are going to be a gravitational array or a magnetic, like, Hallback array. And we don't have the gravitation one yet. I'm working on it. The magnets, so we do. I think we can do this, guys. I think we can go to Ganymede, and I think we can stay there for a reasonable period of time if we just start working on this. But Mars, no water, is not going to happen. Mars is nothing more than a death sentence, an execution. If they pay you a lot of money to go there, don't do it. Just don't. And on that note, I bid you farewell and adieu. Hope you learned something.
Like, subscribe, submit.